He was supposed to be the next great quarterback, the kind of player scouts identify years before draft day, the kind of arm talent you don't coach, you're born with it, the kind of confidence that makes people say, that kid is special. For a long time, Spencer Rattler looked exactly like that guy, but football careers don't always follow the script, and few players have learned that lesson more painfully than Spencer Rattler. He's been benched, pulled in big games, written off by fans, second-guessed by coaches, and perhaps more than anything else, misunderstood. And strangely enough, some NFL teams believe his biggest obstacle wasn't a bad throw or a costly interception. It was a Netflix show. To understand how a quarterback once favored to go #1 overall became a 5th-round draft pick fighting to stay in the league, we have to go back to the beginning. Phoenix, Arizona, the golden child before the criticism, before the memes, before the benchings. Spencer Rattler was the best high school quarterback in America. In 2018, he won the Elite 11 MVP, separating himself from every other top prospect in the country. Coaches and scouts weren't debating whether he was elite. They were debating how high his ceiling really was. He had everything recruiters dreamed of: a 5-star rating, a lightning-quick release, the ability to throw from impossible angles, and a swagger that usually only appears after years in the NFL. Every major college program wanted him, and then came QB1, Beyond the Lights. Netflix followed Rattler during his senior year, capturing not just his football brilliance, but his personality, his confidence, his trash talk, his emotional reactions on and off the field. To some viewers, it was entertaining. To others, it was off-putting. What was meant to be exposure became a permanent label. Years later, NFL evaluators would quietly admit, "We couldn't get that image out of our heads." At the time, Spencer didn't worry about it. Why would he? He was young, he was winning, and his future looked unstoppable. Oklahoma's next king. When Rattler committed to the University of Oklahoma, it felt inevitable. This was quarterback royalty. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts. 3 straight Heisman finalists, 2 #1 overall picks. Oklahoma wasn't just a school, it was a quarterback factory. And now it was Spencer Rattler's turn. When he finally took over as the starter, he exploded out of the gate. In the season opener against Missouri, Rattler threw for nearly 300 yards and 4 touchdowns in the first half alone. Analysts weren't overreacting when they said, Oklahoma has their next superstar. 2 games in, 4 more touchdowns, tying a school record. The hype machine was fully activated. But greatness comes with risk. Rattler played fearless football, and sometimes that fearlessness crossed the line into recklessness. Interceptions followed, forced throws, momentum-shifting mistakes. Losses to Kansas State and Iowa State slowed the hype, but the season was far from over because the biggest stage was still waiting. Red River pressure, the Red River Rivalry, Texas versus Oklahoma, the Cotton Bowl. This is where legends are made, or questioned forever. Rattler started fast, but the game quickly turned chaotic. Interceptions piled up, mistakes snowballed, the Sooners fell behind, and then the unthinkable happened. Lincoln Riley benched Spencer Rattler. The 5-star prodigy sat on the sideline as another quarterback took over. For the first time in his life, football wasn't coming easy. Rattler eventually returned and helped Oklahoma fight back to an emotional overtime win, but the moment left scars. It planted doubt in fans, in analysts, and maybe even inside the program. Still, he responded well down the stretch. A Big 12 championship, a strong bowl game performance, momentum restored. Heading into the next season, Spencer Rattler was the Heisman favorite. Once again, the future looked bright. The following season started unevenly. Turnovers, sloppy execution, close wins against teams Oklahoma should have dominated. And then there was Caleb Williams, a true freshman, a 5-star recruit, explosive and fearless. The crowd noticed. Every incomplete pass from Rattler brought chance for Williams. Every mistake felt magnified. The pressure grew louder by the week. Then came Texas. Again, Rattler struggled early. Turnovers killed momentum, and Lincoln Riley made the call. Rattler was benched. Again, Caleb Williams entered and delivered one of the most dramatic comebacks in Oklahoma history. By the next week, the decision was official. Caleb Williams was the starter. Spencer Rattler's Oklahoma career was over. Starting over in the SEC, Rattler entered the transfer portal. Frustrated, humbled, determined. He could have chosen many programs, but he picked South Carolina, a team rebuilding in the brutal SEC. The adjustment wasn't easy. Elite defenses, constant pressure, early interceptions. Critics were ruthless. Many declared him finished, but slowly things changed. Against Kentucky, Tennessee, and Clemson, Rattler played some of the best football of his life. life. Against Tennessee, he threw for 438 yards and 6 touchdowns, leading a stunning upset. Against Clemson, he snapped a historic home winning streak. In back-to-back weeks, he beat 2 top 10 teams. The narrative shifted again. Draft day reality. Despite the late surge, NFL teams remained cautious. So Rattler returned for another season. Behind a struggling offensive line, he was sacked 40 times, yet never publicly complained, never blamed teammates, never pointed fingers. When draft day arrived, 6 quarterbacks were taken in the first round. Spencer waited and waited. Finally, in the 5th round, the New Orleans Saints selected him. The fall hurt, but the opportunity remained. Thrown into the fire, injuries forced Rattler into action sooner than expected. A rookie, limited protection, learning on the fly. He flashed his arm talent, made big-time throws, showed fearlessness, but he also made mistakes, took hits, and once again found himself benched. The Caleb Williams problem. The new season didn't start the way anyone expected. There were wins, but they weren't clean. There were big plays, but also costly mistakes. Turnovers crept back in, execution felt off. Oklahoma looked vulnerable. And then there was Caleb Williams, a true freshman, a 5-star recruit, electric with the ball in his hands. Every time he stepped on the field, the energy shifted. The crowd noticed. The noise got louder. The whispers turned into chants. Every incomplete pass from Rattler was met with impatience. Every mistake felt amplified. The pressure wasn't just external, it was internal. And once again, fate brought everyone back to the same stage. Texas versus Oklahoma. The Cotton Bowl, Red River. Texas came out swinging. Early scores, momentum on their side. The Sooners were on their heels. Rattler struggled to find rhythm. Turnovers piled up. The offense stalled. And once again, Lincoln Riley made the call. Rattler was benched. Caleb Williams entered. What followed became Oklahoma folklore. A legendary comeback, explosive runs, big throws, momentum swinging violently back in the Sooners' favor. By the time the clock hit 0, the game had become a defining moment, not just for Williams, but for the program. And for Spencer Rattler, it was the moment everything changed. By the next game, there was no mystery. Caleb Williams was the starter. Spencer Rattler's time at Oklahoma was over. Starting over, Rattler entered the transfer portal. Pride bruised, confidence tested, future uncertain. He could have chosen a comfortable landing spot, a place with less pressure, less noise. Instead, he chose South Carolina, a rebuild, a challenge, the SEC. It was a bold move and a risky one. The transition was brutal, relentless defenses, constant pressure, little margin for error. Early in the season, the mistakes returned. Turnovers stacked up, losses followed. Critics were quick to speak. They said the moment had passed him by, that the hype was always fake, that he'd never live up to expectations. But something changed as the season went on. Slowly, Rattler adjusted. The game slowed down. The confidence returned. Quieter now, more controlled. And then it happened. Against Kentucky, he made plays when it mattered. Against Tennessee, everything clicked. 6 touchdown passes, over 430 yards through the air. A shocking upset over a top-ranked team. The following week, against Clemson, he did it again, ending a historic home winning streak. Back-to-back top 10 wins. Just like that, the narrative flipped. Again, the NFL dream was delayed. Despite the late season surge, draft projections weren't kind. The league remembered the inconsistency, the turnovers, the questions. So Rattler made another difficult decision. He came back another year, another grind, another chance to prove himself. Behind a struggling offensive line, he was hit constantly, sacked 40 times in one season. Staffed around passed. Finally, in the 5th round, the call came. The New Orleans Saints selected Spencer Rattler. The fall hurt, but the dream was still alive, thrown into the fire. The NFL rarely waits for rookies to be ready. Injuries forced Rattler onto the field earlier than expected. Limited protection, new system, NFL speed. It wasn't easy. He showed flashes of what once made him special. Big throws, fearless decisions, confidence under pressure. But the mistakes followed too. Interceptions, sacks, another benching, and still, he responded. When he finally earned his first NFL win, it wasn't about the stat line. It was about survival, about proving he belonged, about proving he wasn't done. Same story, new chapter. The following season brought more competition, another quarterback drafted, another battle for snaps, another test of patience. Once again, Spencer Rattler faced adversity, benched, questioned, doubted. But if his career has proven anything, it's this. He doesn't quit. He shows up. He works. He waits for the next opportunity. The legacy being written. Spencer Rattler's career isn't defined by perfection. It's defined by resilience. From prodigy, to punchline, to comeback story, to unfinished business. Few quarterbacks have been tested like him, and fewer still keep standing after every setback. Because sometimes the story isn't about how high you rise. Sometimes it's about how many times you get back up, and Spencer Rattler keeps getting back up. If you enjoyed this deep dive story, hit subscribe for more long-form sports documentaries. Follow on Instagram and TikTok for shorter breakdowns. And as always, thanks for watching.